I heard it said recently on a TV food programme that chicken soup had been voted the world's favourite comfort food. Now, while I can't speak for the merits of that claim or confirm who actually voted, I've got to say I believe it can't certainly be far away. What I thought I would do today, therefore, is show how I like to make a chicken soup using only chicken thighs rather than a whole chicken or any other part of the chicken. The reason I do that is I think chicken thighs are not only the tastiest and most tender part of the chicken, I think the texture of the meat also makes them perfect for including in soup. So what I'm going to do in this first stage of the recipe is serves a dual purpose. It serves to cook the chicken thighs, and it also gives me the broth that will later form the basis of my soup. Into my soup pot are going 4 large chicken thighs, 1 large carrot, which I'm going to wash and chop up, a medium onion, which I am going to peel and quarter, a couple of bay leaves. Normally I would use celery, but on this occasion I saw this small packet of mixed sliced bell peppers, which I'm going to use instead. And I'm also going to use about a teaspoon of dried thyme. Salt and pepper, of course, will also go into the pot. So I'll get these dishes prepared and then we'll look at it again when everything is on the hob. Okay, here the chicken wings, or the chicken thighs even, have been added to my soup pot, followed by the prepared vegetables, the herbs and the seasoning, which is just sea salt and black pepper. I then added about 4 or 5 pints of cold water. What you need to do is make sure that everything is comfortably covered. I'm now going to bring this to a simmer, at which stage it will be covered and left to simmer for half an hour. I'll then turn the heat off and leave it alone for a further hour. At that time the chicken thighs will be perfectly cooked and I'll come back and strain the broth for making the soup proper. Okay, so here we are an hour and a half or so later, where the soup has been simmered for half an hour and then left to cool for a further hour. I need to point out, do be careful at this stage, because although it's been cooling for an hour, it is still pretty hot. So I've carefully lifted it onto a wooden board and I'm now about to separate the various elements of the stock. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a large slotted spoon and I'm going to get the chicken wings out of there. Now, there's no need to be too pedantic about it. If you do get a couple of little bits of the vegetable on your plate with the chicken thighs, which I keep calling chicken wings, you can easily separate them off when it comes to removing the meat from the bones. So just finish getting them over. They're probably still going to be too hot to actually take the meat off at the moment, so what you'll probably need to do is get a food cover and cover them and leave them for a little while you take care of the next stage of the procedure to cool. So I'll set the chicken thighs to one side for now. Then I'm going to take a glass bowl and I'm going to lift the majority of the vegetables out of the stock. It was suggested to me recently that instead of discarding these vegetables, I should remove only the bay leaves and actually blend the vegetables as part of the stock making process. It's certainly something I'll try at another time, but I'm not going to do that today. It does seem a shame though to discard all these vegetables, so maybe the idea does have some merit. So again, we don't need to be too pedantic, but we want to get the majority of them out of the pot and out of the road before we start straining. That'll do it. Just get rid of that out of the road. What I'm going to take finally is a large bowl with a sieve suspended over it. Now what I'm going to do, I'll turn this, the handle is at a different part. I'm going to take a ladle and I'm just going to ladle the stock into the bowl, and this very fine sieve We'll get rid of the bay leaves and any remaining bits of vegetables. So you probably get the idea with that. When the pot gets lighter, I can actually lift the pot and pour the stock into the sieve. So I'll finish that off and then I'll move on to the next stage of preparing the vegetables for the soup itself. The vegetables we use to incorporate in the soup itself are of course almost infinitely variable. What I'm using here are some small carrots, probably about the equivalent of 2 large carrots, a small leek, the stem only, and this vegetable, which you may know by a variety of different names depending where you are in the world. In Scotland it's called simply a turnip, or particularly around Burns and Neep. In England it would be known as a swede turnip, and of course in the United States it would be known as a rutabaga. Whatever you call it, I'm going to peel it, moderately finely dice it. Same with half of the carrots. The other half of the carrots I'm going to peel and grate. The leek I'm going to wash top tail and slice into discs. They are all going to go into the strained soup and they will cook while the chicken thighs are cooling. Okay, just a brief word about this stage of the procedure. What I've done is washed out the soup pot and poured the strained stock back into it. I've then added the peeled and diced swede turnip, rutabaga, the peeled and diced half the carrots, the sliced leek and the remainder of the carrots peeled and grated. I'm now going to bring this back to a simmer and simmer it just for about 15 minutes until the vegetables are softened. Okay, so here we are, we're almost at the end of our journey in this soup making. The vegetables have been simmering away in the stock for about 15 minutes, as I had said, and they're just softened. So what I'm going to do now is take the meat that I have plucked from the chicken thighs. Now you can make this as the pieces as big or as small as you like, it's really entirely up to yourself. But I've discarded all the skin and all the bone, and I'm going to, very carefully of course, add that back into the soup. And the final thing I have is a couple of tablespoons of washed and chopped flat leaf parsley. I didn't bother taking too many of the stalks away, just the thicker woody ones you want to get rid of before you chop it, and add it to the soup. That's in as well. I've still got it on the heat, so what I'm going to do is just give it a bit of a stir with my wooden spoon, and I'm going to let that come back to the simmer just for 2 or 3 minutes to heat the chicken through and let the parsley impart its flavour into the soup. After that I'll taste it and make sure that its seasoning's okay. I'll adjust that if necessary and the soup will be ready to eat. Okay, so here we have it, our chicken thighs and vegetable soup ready to be enjoyed. I've served it simply with a plain bread roll, but you can serve it of course any way you wish. What you might also want to do is cool the soup, refrigerate it overnight and reheat it the following day, as many soups are of course better enjoyed on the second